You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the show on this beautiful Tuesday morning. How are you doing, vandag? I hope you are doing well. I hope things are coming into shape for you today. Thank you for being with us here on 702. We always appreciate being in your company and yours, ours. The Clement Manyathela Show starts with the 702 open line on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. So, do you know how long we have been waiting for the Phala-Phala judgment from the Constitutional Court? Take a guess. Since the Constitutional Court justices had arguments in this matter, how long has it been? Well, today officially marks 448 days. That is an entire year and almost 3 months. Is this the longest time we've had to wait for a judgment from the Constitutional Court? I'm not sure, but I bet you it's definitely going to be one of the longest times, if not the longest time, we've ever had to wait for judgment from the concourt. So what is going on? If you forgot about the case, I wouldn't blame you because it's been so long. So I'm going to try and rejig your memory a bit. This case I'm talking about was brought by the EFF, and it centers on determining whether Parliament acted unconstitutionally by rejecting a Section 89 panel's recommendation that President Cyril Ramaphosa should face an impeachment inquiry over the Phala-Phala scandal. Remember that independent panel? Remember who sat on the independent panel? Sillo, the advocate at the Madlanga Commission, Sillo Mahlape Sillo. This advocate we're praising, who's doing an impeccable job at the Madlanga Commission, was one of the people who sat on that panel that was trying to figure out whether there is prima facie evidence of impeachment against President Cyril Ramaphosa regarding the Phala-Phala scandal. So the EFF then filed papers in the Constitutional Court to declare the decision taken by the National Assembly. Remember, the National Assembly had decided not to adopt the independent panel's report on Phala-Phala and not refer it to the impeachment inquiry. So the EFF filed papers to say to the Constitutional Court, please, can you declare this decision by Parliament as irrational and unlawful? Because Abo Mahlape Sillo and all the other legal experts who were sitting on this panel didn't say the president must be impeached. They didn't. In fact, they said, we recommend that there must be an inquiry that's created and we give the president an opportunity to actually answer questions, and we can bring in other people as well if needs be. But it's an impeachment inquiry. Yes, no president wants to sit through an impeachment inquiry because it's too invasive and I mean, it takes you away from the work you're supposed to do. It's like, remember Busisiwe Mkhwebane? Think of an inquiry like that where she sits there almost an entire day being asked questions and evidence being led, and the president would have to go through that grilling process. So I get it. Nobody wants that. But it's Parliament that said we need an independent inquiry that can assist us with how to move forward from this issue. And when an independent inquiry said, with really credible legal experts, said we need an impeachment inquiry because there is prima facie evidence here, what did Parliament do? ANC used its majority to vote against the adoption of that panel's report. And in court, the parties argued that Parliament failed to hold their president accountable and subverted parliamentary rules by dismissing the report. So they were saying that the ANC abused its majority to shield the president. We've seen that before, haven't we? From the ANC with the Nkandla report, remember? So that independent panel found that there was prima facie evidence that the president breached his oath of office and anti-corruption laws. And the court, in fact, I remember the court asking the lawyers some really tough questions, including why the panel used prima facie evidence and not insufficient evidence simultaneously. But another justice pointed out that the panel was actually constrained. The rules say the panel must conclude that there is sufficient evidence to show that the president committed a serious misconduct or a serious violation of law, but, and then it restricts the panel considerably because the panel will receive only information from members. It may not conduct an oral hearing. So, of course, it's limited to the written record of information before it. But there were such fascinating arguments outside of court, and I thought that was so interesting. So, a year and almost 3 months later, we're still waiting for that judgment. Now, there are two likely scenarios here, at least for me, and I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. Two likely scenarios here. One, either there are some really serious backlogs in the Constitutional Court, serious enough to delay a judgment by a year and 3 months or two. Or two, this judgment is going to have some really serious consequences, so maybe timing matters. But then again, the concourt doesn't and shouldn't concern itself with timings of its judgment and consequences thereof. Hence that Nkandla judgment. Remember it? On how Parliament failed to hold Zuma accountable? Hence that contempt of court judgment against Zuma. Remember that? That sent Zuma to jail. So what are we dealing with here? I'm not even for a second suggesting that anything is untoward here towards the justices. I'm just confused. I'm trying to understand, why would the Constitutional Court hear such an important matter and then wait a year and 3 months? And we still don't have a judgment. The EFF has even tried to march to the Constitutional Court. When was it? Late last year. November or December last year, the EFF marched to the concourt. We still don't have a judgment. What do you think is at play? I don't know. And maybe somebody else listening understands maybe the kind of issues the Constitutional Court is facing that are resulting in this. Let me know your thoughts on that, please. 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Another question I want to ask you on the open line this morning is how much you actually spend on healthcare. And have you ever had to cut other things, or maybe you decided to go for a hospital plan because it's much cheaper than the other options available? I'm asking you that question because I see that there are trade unions in the public service that have rejected GEMS's decision to implement a 9.8% increase in membership contributions from January, followed by then a revised 9.5% increase effective the 1st of April. But in fact, when you look at it across the board, because it's not just GEMS that increases its contributions, right? It's membership contributions. South Africans across various medical aid schemes are facing weighted contribution hikes. I mean, for 2026, increases among major open medical scheme range between approximately 6.8% and 9.9%. So with medical inflation in South Africa consistently outpacing general inflation, many households are feeling that financial strain. And I wonder if you are one of those and what options you go for when you're at this point. Are you managing with the rising cost of medical aid contributions? Have you had to downgrade your health plan to make it more affordable? Are you cutting back on other household expenses to accommodate these increases? So I want to know how these escalating costs have forced you to either cancel your medical aid or find other options. Please share your realities with us. You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
So 011-883-0702, WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Lesego on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, this is very, very, very simple. The word Zuma wasn't next to the Phala-Phala. Add Zuma and you turbocharge the response from the Constitutional Court. This isn't higher grade stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I 100% agree with that. But I get the point that you're trying to raise here. Why would it be that even the Nkandla judgment didn't take this long? Why would it be that even the contempt judgment against Zuma didn't take this long? Unless it has, and I've forgotten that. Please remind me. What is going on? Why do we still not have the Phala-Phala judgment? And it doesn't help that there are other things that we've had to traverse and make sense of, like, for instance, the IPID report on Phala-Phala being classified. Why is that report being classified? Why is the report described as top secret? And then you've got the public protector already that's already decided, no, nothing wrong here. Nobody's being held accountable. You've got the South African Reserve Bank that said nothing went wrong here. SARS released a statement explaining what happened with that businessman. The police or the NPA decided, no, we're not prosecuting anybody here. So we're stuck. And there are many people who thought maybe the Constitutional Court judgment is going to help us approach this matter in a way. It's going to really give us some direction here. 1 year and almost 3 months later, we're still waiting. I'm going to come to your WhatsApp voice notes and calls in a moment. I want to bring in Karen Mon, who's a legal journalist, because Karen reports on these matters a lot and watches them very closely. Karen, thank you so much for quickly coming in. Good morning.
Thank you for having me, Clement.
448 days officially today since we have been waiting for this judgment. Are you just as surprised, or do you have some kind of explanation why this could be the case?
Well, I think the key issue that the court is getting into here is about executive accountability, right? It's about what do you do when a panel finds, a Section 89 panel, which is headed by a Chief Justice, finds that there is, quote-unquote, prima facie evidence that the president acted unconstitutionally in relation to the Phala-Phala scandal. But that report is then not adopted because, by a vote in Parliament, all there needs to be is a simple majority to put into place the impeachment inquiry that the panel recommended, and that doesn't happen. Is that a simple question of politics? Because we know, for example, in the Trump administration, there were certain pushes for him to be impeached that were defeated because of the political numbers at play. And is that something that we have to accept in a constitutional democracy? Or is it that, there's such manifest evidence of irrationality on the part of Parliament in making that decision that the highest court in the country needs to intervene? And what does it do? What is the shape of that intervention? So this is a pivotal constitutional question, because it's not just about Cyril Ramaphosa and the manifest evidence that something really was rotten in the state of Denmark in relation to the Phala-Phala scandal. It's about future executive accountability as well. And that's why the court's delay in giving this judgment is so problematic. And I think why people who see the contrast between what happened with other EFF cases when it came to Nkandla and former President Zuma, the motion of no confidence, and where there were very, very quick judgments, very, seismically legally shifting judgments in relation to, for instance, the public protector's powers, they can look at that situation and go, but, apart from there being a different president here, why is this court taking so long? And I think the longer this thing goes on, the more pertinent those questions will become.
Oh, and so what are because I'm trying to figure out the likely scenarios here, Karen. One, I'm like, okay, maybe the backlog is so bad and you and I maybe we don't even understand the kind of extent the backlog goes and the consequences thereof. Or two, this judgment is going to have some really serious consequences, so the timing matter. But then again, the Constitutional Court doesn't concern itself with timing and shouldn't concern itself with timing and the consequences of its judgment. It must just do the law. I mean, it must just do its work. What scenarios are you looking at? What do you think could be at play? And I know it's a tough question, but I'm trying to make sense of all of this.
There was a very telling moment during the hearing where Justice Owen Rogers had quite a terse interaction with Tembeka Ngwayatobi, who was representing Ramaphosa. And he was saying to him, look, the one thing that he was struggling with was, if this money had just been put into a money market account and he calculated the interest, and it was like something like 300 Rand in interest per month or whatever it was. And he said, the fact that you would forego that, I mean, it might have even been more, the fact that you would forego that and keep this money in a couch lends to the perception that something untoward was going on here. I mean, the facts just need to be stated. Money in a couch, this person, this strange businessman arriving on, I think it was Christmas Day, and leaving this money in a bag. And then he
buys cows he doesn't pick up.
He never collects the cows. And also I think there was something about them being substandard or something, it just needs to be articulated for someone to say, if this was in a movie script, people would be like, this is completely implausible. And so in the wake of the situation, many would look at the panel saying, not that Ramaphosa should be stripped of office, but there was enough there to justify an impeachment investigation that would essentially lance the boil that Phala-Phala is, get all the stuff out in the open, and allow us to move on as a country. And I think, what for me is going to be interesting when this judgment does eventually come out, Clement, is it unanimous?
Yeah.
Or is this a scenario where we're going to see some very interesting splits happening? Because ideally, in those other judgments with Zuma and various other things, typically what's happened is those rulings have been unanimous. Or if, as in the big one that wasn't the case with that was, of course, the contempt issue, where there was a very sharp disagreement with the court about jailing the former president. But so, for me, the question is going to be, when this thing comes out, are there splits? And what are the splits about? And I think that will give us a real sense of why this maybe took so long. Okay,
let's wait. Karen Mon, thank you for making time for us. She's a legal journalist. I thought I should bring her up so we get a little bit more context to the little context that I had already given you. RJ on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, it's all about putting the country first, considering the stability of the country and the economy. Each and every president, after President Mandela was recalled, with the exception of President Kgalema because he was the interim president, imagine the impression his impeachment and ultimate removal would create about the country being a politically unstable country and therefore not attractive to FDI. But hold on, that should never be the responsibility and the considerations of the Constitutional Court. Remember what we spoke about when Jacob Zuma was sent to jail? Remember, I am one of the people who said we must ensure that we actually celebrate, what's that Italian term I always told you about? Fiat justitia ruat salam. It's a Latin legal phrase meaning let justice be done though the heavens fall. So it signifies the belief that justice must be realized regardless of the consequences. Is there going to be instability in this country? If this judgment says Parliament, you failed to hold the president accountable. You should have allowed for an impeachment inquiry that the president goes through. Sure, possibly. But justice must still be done. So what must happen? Tomorrow, it's going to be the case of, oh, you can't touch the leader of the ZCC or the leader. I'm trying to think of the powerful figures in society. You can't touch that person, even when they are facing serious matters. You can't find a judgment against them, because what could happen if the church comes out and it revolts and says, no ways, we're not accepting that. That's like saying you can't send Zuma to jail because there are many people out there who are already on the streets protesting. No, we can't live in a country like that. And we can't have a constitutional court that makes considerations like that. We already have institutions in our discourse, in our constitutional democracy, that must be able to hold that moment. So what is at play here? Why has it been so long? Your WhatsApps on 072 702 and 702.
Good morning, Clement. Malema did hint during his last press conference that there are serious divisions there at the Constitutional Court. And I will take Malema's word for it, because he's got the insights. And he's the leader of the EFF who actually took this matter to the Constitutional Court. So I would rely on his what he's saying. But what's disappointing is Judge Maya. I thought a fresh breath of fresh air is coming to the Constitutional Court, and look where we are now. This thing is unprecedented. It has never happened before, and it happens with the most competent judge. So we are doomed as South Africans. But I think the divisions, I'll take Malema's word for it. Sindile.
Well, morning, Clement. I don't think the concourt is seized or overburdened with other issues, and they face a capacity problem to be able to deliver such a critical judgment. Remember, the president there's been rumors that he's got friends in the judiciary, particularly in the concourt. I think, and I also don't think your suggestion that there might be grave implications for the president, hence the delay. I just think they want public interest to die down before they can release it. Perhaps at that time, the judgment might be moot because the president is leaving office. Prince, Bedford View.
You see, but then all of them then should resign. If those are the considerations they make, that let's wait for what is the public narrative, maybe there's anger now, this is going to affect, then all of them must go, because they must not concern themselves with politics. Our justices must not concern themselves with politics, and I don't think they are. My goodness, I hope they're not. But I do not think they are. I personally have a lot of confidence in the Constitutional Court and the justices we have there. I'm just trying to figure out, why has it taken so long? Have we been here before? Because that is the last line of defense. That is the last opportunity we have to at least get some clarity on what transpired here. Because all the other institutions have said to the president, you're good. You don't have to worry about anything. There's nothing wrong here that really happened. And nobody's saying that the president must be found guilty. No. But I don't think South Africans are satisfied by the reports that have come out from the various institutions clearing the president. Even from the NPA deciding we're not prosecuting. How is this not fishy? Whether you like the president or not, be objective here. Is what happened in Phala-Phala normal to you? Does it make sense? And is it not fishy to you that we're still waiting for judgment a year and 3 months later? And what does that mean?
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
23 minutes before 10 o'clock. I've been asking you about the Constitutional Court. Why have we waited a year and almost 3 months for the Phala-Phala judgment, with all the other, you could argue, equally important judgments before? That had weighted consequences, we didn't have to wait this long. Whether it's Nkandla judgment, whether it's that judgment on contempt that sent the former President Jacob Zuma to jail, why have we waited this long? Is it a matter of delays and backlog? Because then that is a serious crisis in the Constitutional Court, if that's their justification. Or are we dealing with something else here? And if there is something else, what could it potentially be? I'm also asking you about how you're managing with the rising cost of medical aid contributions. Have you had to downgrade your health plan to make it more affordable? I mean, with medical inflation in South Africa consistently outpacing general inflation, there are many households that are feeling that financial strain. So some of the messages that have come through on that, Just X on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, with regards to the rising medical aid costs, I've had to downgrade my medical aid option to network plan. This is after I had switched to a cheaper medical aid company, but had problems with claims and went back to my initial one. But the different plan is what I did because it's just bad. Another one says, hi, Clement. I'm on Discovery Classic Saver. My employer contributes 8,222 and I contribute 3,523. Whoa, who's your employer? So we can all apply for jobs there. That's crazy. They contribute 8,222. You contribute 3,523. It's me and our 2 toddlers in the plan. This month, an increase of around 8% will be affected. I'd like to downgrade, but I'll lose the benefits. I can't afford to have my kids or wife hospitalized at a public hospital either. Ooh, so yeah, that's what makes it quite tricky, doesn't it? Kamu, you are calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning.
Hi, morning, Clement.
Yeah.
This is not the first time I call about medical aid. I've done it before when Eusebius was still alive. May his soul rest in peace. Clement, as a so-called middle-class professional in South Africa, it's very sad. For instance, the company that I work for, you are forced to take a certain option of medical aid. So because of my level at work, I'm at the highest level. So for me, my wife and my son, I'm paying 15,000 rand.
Sure.
Now let me put that into context. Newly married couple, we've been married for just over a year, and we've been looking to buy a house. Our budget was, okay, let me not speak about budget, but in the area that I stay in, a basic entry-level house in the suburb we stay in starts at 2 million, and that's a 2-bedroom. A 3-bedroom is 2.5. We can't afford these houses, so we are renting. And to give you context, 15,000 which I'm paying on medical aid can pay for a 1.5 million house. Now I know people will say, why don't you downgrade and go to the township? Clement, black people are not supposed to be staying in the township. It was a dumping site for apartheid. Nobody needs to be staying there. So, I'm stretched as it is, and I don't know when we are going to be able to get into a nice house in the suburb because we are renting. It's a bit cheaper if you rent. But it's really, really frustrating. And we only have this because government is not fixing public health care. That money, I should be pumping it into a bond or an investment on educational savings because I want my son to go and study overseas when he's done with matric. But we just can't. We just cannot. We are being abused by this country.
That's what I always refer to, the double tax. You are being double taxed because already government takes a certain percentage from your salary, right? And you would think if you lived in any country that handles quite well and appropriately the taxes from its citizens, that would actually sort out your security. It would sort out public education. It would sort out public health care. But because government has completely failed with these public institutions, you must live in the suburb because there's better security. You must live in a complex that has high halls. Why? Because you need better security. It's failing to give you security. And now you have to pay 15,000 rand a month for medical aid because it simply has failed in its public health program. That's a double tax. And it's crazy. I cannot imagine that, Kamu. 15,000 rand is a lot of money.
Clement, I'm telling you, my wife is livid. She said, I need to find another company we need to do something, because really we want to buy a house now, because our plan is also, we don't want to pay a house for 20 years. We want to at least get it to 15 maximum, but finish it in 10 years, because anything can happen. So you don't want to be stretching things like that.
Yeah, true. Kamo, listen, strength to you, my friend. I feel for you, and I know there are other people out there who are paying much more than that, or just less than that, but it's still a lot to them. So how are you managing with the rising cost of medical aid contributions? There are increases that are coming in. The benefits are not changing, but how much you're paying for those benefits is changing. How are you managing with that? It's 17 minutes before 10.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
William, you're calling us from Edenvale. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. What do you want to say about the concourt?
No, don't worry. The constitutional delay in the judgment aside, a commission of inquiry needs to take place on Phala-Phala, and Ramaphosa needs to be brought before that commission. Patrice Matsepe needs to be brought before the commission. The current public protector, Katleho, I forget her name now, her and Letseho Kanyahu, the Reserve Bank governor, and the Sudanese businessman. And I've got reasons for saying all that. I don't want to waste too much time, your listeners' time. And further, I don't have much to say about the AFS, but I do commend them for hanging on to Phala-Phala. There's something not right there. And I say, if I can quickly, I don't want to take too much time. There was a question and answer session, I don't know when it took place, but I heard a rerun last year on 702, where a lady journalist asked Ramaphosa, now what are you going to do about the 500,000? Are you going to refund this person? And strangely, me as a finance person, Ramaphosa said, yes, he's looking at that. No, Ramaphosa, deliver the buffalo. This man bought buffalo. Why do you want to refund him?
Yeah, in fact,
furthermore,
it was a question I asked him on the show. Abel, I don't know if we can find that clip. When Ramaphosa was on, President Cyril Ramaphosa was on this show. When was it? 2 years ago? About 2 years ago, we hosted him on the show. And one of the question I asked him, which ultimately got me in trouble and had and had some people in the presidency not even talking to me, was I asked the president, someone came and bought buffaloes from your farm, never collected them years later, 4 years later. How does that make sense? And the president said, I'm going to refund the person the money. And I wonder if the president has actually refunded that money. But that is already suspicious. That is already suspicious. Can you imagine going into a shop and buying, I don't know, whatever goods you're getting from that shop, and you're paying cash for it, but you don't collect the goods? 4 years later? 5 years later? And counting? And the president said, no, we'll refund the person. Well, the refund, I wonder if it's happened. Maybe we should check with the presidency if that is what has happened. But I doubt it. But even if the refund has happened, isn't that suspicious? Isn't that weird? And hence I'm saying the Phala-Phala judgment is probably going to help clarify things, because the Constitutional Court, and I know, they're not looking necessarily at the merits extensively of that Phala-Phala matter, but they're looking at how Parliament, dealt with it. Has Parliament failed in its constitutional obligation? Has it once again allowed for the ANC to use its majority to vote and abuse its majority to process and approve an irrational decision? Oh, Abel has got that clip of President Cyril Ramaphosa when he was on the show, and I asked him about this matter.
Well, because he has a claim. He has a clear claim, and it's a claim that needs to be met, and we are in the process of dealing with that claim.
By dealing with it, you mean repaying the money?
Oh, yes, we have to.
Okay. You nearly resigned because of this scandal, Mr. President. What changed your mind?
Did I really?
I spoke to two of your best friends on the show who said they managed to convince you.
And also, never mind that, your Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, again, in public said they stopped you from resigning.
Really?
One is to ask not only what changed your mind, but how do you expect the electorate to trust that as you're asking for them to vote for the ANC with you as the presidential candidate?
Yes.
They must trust that you'll see to 5 years, that you will stick around and not quiet quit, or not quit on us as a nation, but actually be up for serving till the end of your term if you're voted back into power.
I will be voted back into power, CD, and many may not like this, but it's going to happen. And I will serve my term. And serve is the operative word, serving the people of South Africa with the best that I can give in the remaining years of my life. I'm 72 this year, and I will be prepared, willing, and able to serve the people of South Africa, because there's much that needs to be done to improve their lives.
That's what the president said when we had him on the show. So, and of course he did want to resign at some point. I mean, I had two of his best friends. I called them on this show on air. His two closest friends, they said to me on air that, yeah, this chap was literally writing his resignation letter, and we told him, no, don't give up. And there were people who were going to his house trying to stop him from resigning. And which is why I think, should the Constitutional Court come and say, Parliament, you failed in your duty, you should have at the very least allowed for an impeachment inquiry. No president wants to sit through an impeachment inquiry. He's likely to resign. I don't see how the president is going to say, okay, cool, I'm going to sit there every day for hours for about 3 months while I'm being asked some really tough questions and I'm being grilled by members of parliament for 3 months in glare of the public. I don't think he's going to do that. I think if the concourt comes and says impeachment inquiry, and that's where government goes, I mean, that's where parliament goes, and then you're likely to have the president resign. And maybe those are the consequences that are facing us. And maybe that's why this judgment is delayed. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think the Constitutional Court concerns itself with political matters like that. What I know, though, is something is not making sense here. Something is fishy. The same way that it's just the Phala-Phala matter is fishy is the same way that this delay in the constitutional judgment is just weird.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
6 minutes before 10 o'clock.
Morning, Clement. Selma from Roodepoort. It seems like these judges on the concourt bench are scared of losing their jobs. I mean, if Cyril Ramaphosa can appoint a guy that wasn't even on a short list, then I suppose you can fire the other guys too that are there on the bench. So I think they're scared of losing their jobs if they give if they say that he should be prosecuted. So I think he's being very much protected. Thanks for a lovely show. Bye.
Clement, look, man, I don't think it's even relevant whether the judgment is unanimous or there is a division when it comes to this judgment. Obviously, there is a majority judgment there. So I think the justices in the Constitutional Court, they just have to release this judgment. It has been sitting with them for more than a year. What more are they looking for? What precedent are they setting towards us, the citizens, about other judgments that are still in waiting? And I really think this is just an incompetence from the Constitutional Court. They should just give us the judgment. That's just about it. Whether it's unanimous or it's divided, well, the majority, I'm sure it's there. That's why we have 11 justices there. So.
Yeah. Simon says, Clement, let's not create on the WhatsApp line, says, Clement, let's not create the impression that the delay of the concourt judgment is caused by the president, because as a third respondent, no relief is sought against him. The main parties involved, the EFF versus the Speaker of the National Assembly, as well as the parties represented in the National Assembly. Oh, but of course it does involve the president. And I'm not saying, not once did I suggest that the delays is caused by the president. But whatever judgment comes out, especially if it's going to be against the National Assembly, ultimately that is against the president. It is going to affect him. And ultimately that could actually affect the trajectory of this country and the GNU. I don't see how the DA is going to justify, because, I mean, they also are probably going to try to protect the president in parliament if the matter goes back there. But I don't see how the DA would also just justify, after having made so much noise about Phala-Phala, and then now they're like, let's find ways to abuse the majority we have as the GNU in parliament to protect this man.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Hi, Clement. It's Vincent in the Western. Look, man, in my view, I don't think anything in South Africa must increase above the inflation rate. The salaries are increasing either below or on the same level with the interest rates. So must the medical aid, so must food, so must everything that we purchase, every service and goods that we buy, they mustn't go above the inflation rate. So what these medical aids are doing, they are killing us.
Hi, Clement. Listen, I downgraded to the hospital plan. This year, I downgraded to the network hospital plan. Things are very expensive. It's difficult to catch up with everything. I wear glasses. I've been looking for a government place where I can go and renew my glasses. Last year, I went to an optometrist, and the whole package, it came to 8,000 and something. I ended up doing just the reading glasses only. And if I want like the complete glasses that I can like be able to drive with and have all those like things for the sun and everything, shades, it costed like more than 8,000. So I'm looking for a government place where I can do the glasses, please, even if it's reading glasses, and I'm willing to pay.
Anybody knows? Please help us. Speaking of glasses, I don't know if you have picked up that whenever I read WhatsApp text, which I try and avoid, I read very slowly because I really can't see. And I think I'm struggling to see from far. And I think because it's been recommended to me years ago that I need to get glasses because I work on TV and I read an auto cue. So your eyes tire from the screen, the television screen. But I really I don't want to wear glasses. I'm waiting at least until I'm 42 to take on glasses. I wish there was an injection I could take that somehow gives me more clear eyes than to have to wear glasses. But I hear you. Anybody who can help this lady with a response, please can you help us out? It's a minute now before 10 o'clock. We got a voice note before the news at 10 o'clock on the 702 open line. And it was someone who was asking for some recommendations. So I want to replay that because there are some responses that have come through. So here's a recap of what this listener was asking about. And I've got your responses that I'll read out. I hope she's still listening.
Hi, Clement. Listen, I downgraded to the hospital plan. This year, I downgraded to the network hospital plan. Things are very expensive. It's difficult to catch up with everything. I wear glasses. I've been looking for a government place where I can go and renew my glasses. Last year, I went to an optometrist, and the whole package, it came to 8,000 and something. I ended up doing just the reading glasses only. And if I want like the complete glasses that I can like be able to drive with and have all those like things for the sun and everything, shades, it costed like more than 8,000. So I'm looking for a government place where I can do the glasses, please, even if it's reading glasses, and I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, so I've received a number of responses. So let me start with Lynn, who says, Clement, for the lady that needs help with glasses, St. John's Community Eye Clinic. They have a branch in Bloemfontein and at Baragwanath. The number, I hope you're still listening to us, my lady. It's 011-403-4227 or 011-933-8000. So, what I'll do is I'll ask the producers to forward you these contact details and some of the messages that have come through. But I want to read these messages for the benefit of someone who may be in the same situation as well. So St. John's Community Eye Clinic, they have a branch in Braamfontein and Baragwanath. And then Movado on the WhatsApp line also says, Clement, I also have the same predicament like that listener who spoke about last, as I ended up going to Neo Vision. They are very affordable. It's about 1,700 Rand and you get 2 pairs. Tiny says, good morning, Clement. The lady can go to Tshwane Hospital, Pretoria. She will get help, but it is a long process and it is about up to nothing. As far as I paid, almost plus 100 and something. Ooh, I don't know what you mean by that. But yeah, Tiny is saying that you're going to get help if you approach the Tshwane Hospital, Pretoria. And then the last message I want to read comes from Anonymous, who says, Clement, please tell your listener about the Order of St. John's Eye Clinic. There are clinics that are, clinics dotted around South Africa, qualified personnel and very, very, very reasonable costs. Oh, thank you so much for all your responses. And I hope the person who sent us that voice note is still listening and is able to check out these places you've recommended for her. I really, really appreciate you.